Hello everyone and welcome to your NARSA Weekly Update for the week commencing Monday the 24th of November 2025. It's Gary here again. Wow, what? Wow. It's one of these things, what a way to wake up and get news that you got, especially, here's the thing, right, here's my process every week. As much as I possibly can, I gather information during the week in a wee spreadsheet that I keep for the NARSA Weekly Update, and if somebody says, can you mention this, or you got that wrong, or here's a thing that's maybe worthwhile to in some way include in the content, and I try and do that and wrap it all up in a wee bow on a Sunday night, so that on a Monday I'll do a quick check of the Rangers website, a quick check of Sky Sports, and then I'll be like, oh, that's something interesting, I'll add that in. And then this morning I wake up to the news where Rangers football confirm it has parted company with CEO Patrick Stewart and Sporting Director Kevin Thelwell. Rangers expresses its sincere gratitude to both Patrick and Kevin for their leadership and unwavering commitment to the club. Chairman Andrew Kavanagh and Vice Chairman Parag Marathi have already begun the search process, and until permanent hires are made, Director Fraser Thornton will assume the role of acting CEO, was the message that I woke up to. Short and sweet. And I don't know, I guess maybe I'd love to know how you feel about it. For me, the timing is kind of odd, don't you think? And I wonder if that's to do with, when you're making significant changes, you try not do it during game time, quite frankly. You try and do it, the international break just having ended is a perfect example, or over the summer, or when we used to have the winter break, something like that, where you say, right, listen, let's just concentrate our efforts for now, don't create any unnecessary distractions, and we will put into place something that's actually going to help you as you go forward. Or wait until after the international break's finished, wait until we get a fourth win in a row in the league, and then let them go. So one of these things, we'll probably never find out what the major catalyst was for them to be exited, unless they were doing some sort of review and said, come up to the 6 month point, we're going to check all these key performance indicators, and we're going to see whether we're actually meeting our performance requirements. And if we're not, we're going to make a change. We're going to make a decision on what has to happen. I'm not 100% sure. Maybe we'll get an opportunity to find out a wee bit more. But I don't know. It's one of these things. You just don't get time at Rangers, and the amount of people on the footballing side and on the admin side, certainly in senior leadership roles, the amount of people that still to this day seem to be surprised at that is surprising to me. I mean, it's actually staggering to me, to be perfectly honest. When they come in, Patrick's here not even a year. Fraser Thornton came in at the same time as Patrick. He's doing what he was the chairman when he came in, then he became a director, now he's the acting CEO. He's had a lot of jobs in the space of a very short period of time. And it's, you've got a situation where there's enough evidence, literal empirical evidence, that says you need to hit the ground running and you need to do what needs to be done to create a profile of trust with the supporters, get some wins under your belt to make sure people know what you're doing, and create some sort of connection with the key stakeholders, the supporters and other stakeholders that you need to create connections with. And it didn't seem like the guys had to do that. I'm fairly sure it's not for the want of trying, and they've come into whatever they've come into. And it's like every job, both parties are advertising themselves. The applicant is advertising how great they would be in the role, and the institution, the organisation, Rangers Football Club in this example, are advertising themselves to say you should come and work here. This is a great place to be and we could really use someone like you. So everyone's on their best behaviour, and then you start, and then you're kind of like, whoa, this is not what I thought it was, and then there's different things. That kind of happens in every job, because you literally don't know the role until you are in it. And I think it's just one of these things that Patrick probably had a lot more on his plate than he thought. And I think in that role, you probably need to have two main tracks. One is, of course, do the job you're paid to do. And the second one is the politics part and the connection part that I mentioned a wee bit earlier, to be able to say, I'm going to do everything I can. I'm going to visit supporters clubs. I'm going to engage with fan media. I'm going to do what needs to be done to make sure that people know there's a human being behind this and that I'm doing my best, and maybe give them the odd wee tidbit of sneak peeks into the future or whatever that looks like. And I think that's really what it is. It's a bit of a game, a bit of a dance between the actual performing of your duties and creating that connection, which will create some goodwill, which might give you a little bit of respite or a wee bit more time than you would if you don't do that. And it doesn't seem that Patrick managed to get a real grip on that. Kevin Thelwell, I mean, he went out, he spent some big money, he made some bold signings, and from a lack of knowledge of the league, from a lack of knowledge, it seems to be, of the club, and of course, not really having any of those signings be an absolute shining light where you're like, you know what, of the 11 or 12 players he signed, this one has been exceptional for us. Gassama is the one that comes to mind for right now, but you know, I mean, he made the squad weaker with the sales that had to that had to happen, or that he decided to happen, or whatever it was. I'm not 100% sure how things work in that perspective, but 6 months is a long time. 0 decent results in that time has been his downfall, and the calls for Kevin Thelwell's head have been plenty for quite some time. You know, you've seen things on social media, and all the major groups were just saying these are dead men walking, and I really hate that term, but that's the term that was used, and it's unfortunate because in these circumstances and situations, regardless of how I feel about someone, I'm always very, very cognizant that there is a human being there. There is someone now who is out of work, and yes, there will be probably some sort of compensatory what would you say, safety net or cushion there for these guys, but they are still out of work, and that's a thing that they have to get used to, and they have to explain to their families, and then take appropriate actions from there. So, you know, thank you for everything you tried to do for us, and I'm sorry it didn't work out, and I wish you all the very best in the future. And I think it really smacks of Andrew Kavanagh and Parag Marathi still getting to know us, and us still getting to know them. I think I mentioned, was it last week or the week before? I can't remember, when I talked about Andrew Kavanagh, and I just, as the chairman of our club, excuse me, I just can't warm to this guy yet because I don't know enough about him. I don't like his track record thus far for the club, and when he talks very, very well, but he has a pit bull of a face. You know, there's no emotion there. There's his version of emotion, there's his version of passion. I mean, I've mentioned the word connection here. I personally don't have that connection with him, you know, to feel that he feels the same as I do, that he's got our best interests at heart, and he's going to do what needs to be done to make us a success. And I'm looking at his track record, and then I'm looking at his presence, and I'm not there. I'm not with him just yet. Now, the caveat to that is, if you have a chance to see the interview on Sky Sports, and I assume there will be an interview that will come on Rangers TV as well. It's too big of a news incident that for us not to take advantage of that on our own channels. That's the first time where I've thought, actually, you know what? This guy doesn't mind making tough decisions. It's one of these things. He did it with passion. He said a comment, something along the lines of, the interviewer was pressing him to say, like, what happened? Give us some gossip. And he says, I'm not going to throw dirt on these guys at this moment in time. It's not appropriate to do so, and they don't deserve it. And I started to get a wee glimpse of the man, of the leader there, and I was impressed. I was happy with that. I did have a spark of connection with him. So, you know, cautiously optimistic that they'll get it right second time. They will learn from the mistakes that they have very obviously made in terms of appointments, and continuing to support these appointments, and maybe about the timing. You know, maybe there was a thing to do with the timing. If we do it before this date, there's less financial repercussions. Repercussions, that's not even a word. Repercussions for the club, and that sort of thing. You know, so it's a lot to do. But yeah, I was semi-impressed by him today, and that opens the door for me. Not that Andrew Kavanagh gives a flying you-know-what about what Gary Gillan cares or feels about him, but it's good for him, and he's obviously, like everyone else, doing the best that he can. So what does that mean? That means that we have a friend of NARSA, Fraser Thornton, as our acting CEO. And the search is already underway. They've said that. They said they've already been talking to particular candidates, and it's going to be very, very interesting. Do you know what, folks? I'm actually not sure. Honestly, I'm not sure what the right fit is here. In my tenure with NARSA and paying more attention to that side of the club, we've had Stewart Robertson, we had James Bisgrove, and we had Patrick Stewart, and that's a mix of skills, a mix of personalities, and a mix of successes and probably failures in there for each of them. And I think you really, really, truly need to be a success in there, you really need an understanding, a true understanding of the institution that is Glasgow Rangers Football Club and the league that we play in, and the nuances of the league, the nuances of the hierarchy of the league in terms of who's leading it and what their biases are and what their shortcomings and skills and strengths are at the same time, and then have some sort of affinity with the fans where it doesn't have to be a love affair, but have that mutual respect, speak in a language that folks say he's got it, he understands it, and him or her we trust, and then move forward from there. They need to have a presence. I think that's really it. And of course, they need to have a pedigree. And I mean, Patrick Stewart came from Manchester United, and of course, yes, over the last X amount of years since Sir Alex Ferguson retired, they haven't had their troubles to seek in terms of sustained success. But you don't get a job at Manchester United as the CEO if you're not very competent at what you're doing. And so the pedigree was there, maybe the presence not so much. And I don't know, Kevin Thelwell had a decent resume, a decent CV as well, and that didn't work out. So there's that X factor, that magic sauce in there. Maybe it's a mix of the astute work that Stewart did and the presence and forward thinking and youthful exuberance that James had, and the experience and tenure that Patrick had. Maybe there's a candidate or two or three out there. I don't think we're asking for too much. Are we? We kind of are, but it's a demanding job, but it's also a very well compensated job as well. These folks are being very well compensated for the investment that they have to make, because essentially they have to make the job of their life. And there's lots of other people out there that would be desperate for that type and style of role, that type of style of profile, and that type and style of influence to be able to make our club great. Again, from a sporting director perspective, during that time we had, and I've maybe forgotten someone, so forgive me if I have, but we had Mark Allen when the Steven Gerrard era came in, and that was really the first time we had a sporting director that I can recall anyway. We had Ross Wilson, and then we had Kevin Thelwell. So again, maybe it's a bit of a mix of those guys. From Mark Allen, I was really disappointed when Mark Allen left, because he had some really good contacts and brought in some players from some clubs that added a lot of gravitas to us, that he had this market or connections in the market that we got, like a Joe Aribo for what we got Joe Aribo for, and of course the connection he had with Steven Gerrard, and just the ability to be able to open doors that weren't previously open to us in terms of transfers and such like that. Ross Wilson, the club chased Ross Wilson for a very long time, and I think we were all really optimistic when he joined, but he never really had that presence, did he? And then at the end there was calls for him to be let go, and the exact same with Kevin Thelwell. I don't think we've seen the best of him, and he made some decisions that, I mean, every transfer I completely understand and appreciate. Every hire, in fact, for that matter, is a risk, because you just don't know how it's going to work out when the person gets in the role and what opportunities are going to present themselves to be able to add value straight away. And I think he just basically got everything wrong, didn't he? It seems like that anyway, and there wasn't that connection that I've went on about here. So we've got some tenure in terms of experience of what has and hasn't worked from each of the two significant roles, the CEO and the sporting director. So hopefully we learn and we take that information from the successes and failures, and we use that for good for the club as we move forward. I don't know. I really don't know. But what I do know is there is never, ever, ever a dull moment at Glasgow Rangers Football Club. Man, oh man. So back to the club in and of itself in terms of the team. And as I mentioned earlier there, that's 4 out of 4 in the league for Danny Roll. The key for Danny is to try and block out all this external noise. I wonder how he feels about Kevin Thelwell not being there anymore. I understand that he would, the manager or the head coach as it is, would have a direct link and direct communication, I should say, with the sporting director every day, I would think. So is that going to impact him from a day-to-day perspective? Is he disappointed that he's gone? Is he pleased that he's gone? Was he involved in the fact that maybe he's like, I don't think this guy is fit for purpose for where we're going? Who knows? I'm not 100% sure, but Danny just has to keep winning, especially domestically, to keep going and see where it takes us. And it's been, I think he's had a solid start to what he's been doing after the debacle of the extended search that we had and the candidates that were in and then out, including him, to the recruitment process. He's done some good stuff, certainly in the league, and he's done what we wanted him to do, which is start to win games and that he should be winning. And then I thought we were very unlucky in terms of what happened with the red cards and such in the semi-final. I don't have to go on about that again. And we've just stank, really, haven't we, in the Europa League so far? Actually, in Europe in general, we had a couple of results early on in the Russell Martin era, but we just haven't hit the heights at all. So we've always said for years and years and years the league is the most important, so let's focus on that. Let's see what we can do. Let's continue to pick up the points that we need to pick up and make people at the top of the table start to think and know and understand that we are getting somewhere in terms of our ability to start to progress and make an impact on who is or is not going to win this league. One thing I can say about that, folks, is it's going to be an absolutely huge December and January. Actually, for us, every month is huge, of course, but I'm looking at the fixture list, and that's what I'm talking about specifically. Of course, I don't want to look too far ahead and overlook Braga and Falkirk. That's not what I'm saying, but what I'm saying is there are some very, very tough games, especially in December, and of course we start with January with the Old Firm game. So it's the league table is going to look how the league table is going to look at the end of this next month, and it'll be interesting to see if we can take the results or take these. And the results is probably more important than the performances. Take the results forward into December and beyond, and see if we can actually mount a genuine challenge here. Who knows? We'll see what that looks like. And one thing I did want to mention here in the intro, very long intro, I know and appreciate, but you'll understand why, of course, is the financials came out last week there, and there's no AGM based on our ownership structure now. There's no need to have an AGM anymore as we're not publicly traded. I believe that's the correct terminology to use. In fact, actually talking about AGMs, did you see that other mob's AGM last year? Even in our most fictitious ways that we have been over the last 13 or 14 years, we never had that at an AGM where it had to get abandoned and the fans were just booing and such like that. So testimony to an opportunity here for the club, and maybe that's what Andrew and Parag were doing by saying, you guys have to go and you have to go now. We're taking swift action, and we're making discernible changes to try and give us an opportunity to get back to where we should be, which is atop the domestic standings in every way, shape and form. So the revenue was up by 7% to 94 million. The total operating expenses was down. What would that be? Down by 4%, I think it was. And then the EBITDA, the earnings before interest, tax, deductions and amortization, depreciation, sorry, not deductions, depreciation and amortization. There was a 2 million loss in 2024 versus a 5.6 million gain. The profit before player trading was 2.7 versus 2. This is million pounds in compared to last year. Operational cash flow last year was negative 7.7 million. This year is positive 12.1 million. The losses for the year is down. What's that down? Roughly about 2.5 million, almost 14.8 million pounds of losses versus 17.2 million last year, and a closing cash balance. I thought this was interesting, of 30.5 million pounds versus 1.7 million pounds. I'm not a financial expert at all, And I don't really know much about this stuff, but those numbers, certainly at a summary level, seem to be trending in the right direction. Of course, you don't want a loss for the year, but when you've got cash on hand and your earnings are in the positive and you've got increased revenue, I think that all points to a positive future if we can get things right on the field and get things right in the leadership tables, at the leadership tables or in the leadership rooms as well. Then there's certainly cause to be optimistic, I think. What Gaz got wrong last week, I did get quite a lot of feedback actually from across the globe about the poor quality of I had Alan McWatt on, the NARSA president, last week, and my sound quality was good, as it always is, of course, folks, but Alan's was not. And the interesting thing was, on the video, I record this on video, then I transpose it or transfer it over into audio for the audio platforms. And on the video and the audio, it sounds fine. On the Riverside is the application that I use for all my podcasting work on my personal business side and my NARSA stuff as well. And it sounds great, but it was only when it was packaged up and downloaded that it sounded like he was a robot. It was coming out, and then you could kind of hear it, but not. So I'm going to 100% lay the blame on Alan for this, because I'm not going to take any blame myself, am I? Come on, let's get real here. And he's promised to update his iPhone 3 before the next time he comes on the podcast. So apologies for the sound quality on that one. I did try and fix it. I did try and use AI to help me in some way make it more of a crisp audio, and it was just bad from the download onwards. So I do apologise about that if it impacted your listening pleasure. Right, let's get on with the games here. Boy, oh boy, 21 minutes just to get to the game segment. We enjoyed another win, 4th in a row, as I've mentioned a couple of times now, and the game started really, really well. We really looked up for it, started on the front foot, got an early goal from a set piece. What a job our new set piece coach, Scott Fry, is doing. The first set piece, goal, take it. That's brilliant. What a job. And that was great to see, and really, a really, really positive start for us. And I had to leave the game from Pinbar. I went downtown to set up the game for the troops at Pinbar, and then I was teaching all day on Saturday, so I had to watch the game on replay. And as soon as I left, which was around about 17 or 18 minutes, then I got a notification on my phone saying 1-1, and I hadn't even set up Rangers TV on my phone at that point, so that wasn't so great. But we lost a goal. Do you know what, folks? Like, see this goal? It's almost like seeing an old friend, isn't it? We just, and the Rangers teams have been susceptible to this for years and years and years and years and years. And none of the coaches that have came in have been able to discernibly, get it stopped, apart from Steven Gerrard in 51 in 2021 in 55 season, I mean. And it's a very, very, very common goal for us to lose. Big ball down. The guy controlled it exceptionally well, and it was a good finish. Like, fair play to him. He still had a lot of work to do. But, honestly, where is our analytics folks for this? The ability to say, here is the most common type and style of goal that we lose, from a set piece. Here's the most common type and style of goal that we lose from open play. Here is the typical parameters around it, and here, pass it on to the coach, and then have the coach and the coaching staff be able to say, right, how do we combat that, and then put some proviso in place to be able to do that. Especially against these teams who do what they call now fashionably the low block, and they're just looking for any opportunity to counter. Present the information, do something about it, because we're just not learning. And if we're not learning that, we're never going to get any better in that department. Anyway, we got away with a handball at some point a little bit later than that incident in the goal. And it was because they actually said that it looked like it hit his body before it hit his hand. I didn't see it hit his body, honestly, in the replays that I saw. But they said his arm wasn't raised in an unnatural position, and I would agree with that. And I know that other people are saying it's a Stonewall penalty. If it was the other way around, I would be asking for it as a Stonewall penalty. And I'm not one of these guys, it evens itself out over time. It's just another bizarre decision by a referee and by a VAR team. And this time it fell for us. Most times it doesn't. And I think we just maybe say enough or say that about it and then just move on. And then we did get caught dilly-dallying in defence at one point. Super Jack Butland had to come to the rescue again. He's doing that more and more for us. He's getting back to his best. And then we got our winner, which bizarrely was originally chalked off for offside. And it wasn't until after the game that I didn't realise that they were maybe looking at a foul on the goalie before it went to Diamandi to put it in. It was a foul on the goalie, and it certainly wasn't offside. It wasn't even close to being offside. But of course, VAR want to make sure that they can do everything they can to conspire against Rangers most of the time. And we got the goal, and there was, we've seen the game out fairly easily. You know, there was a couple of wee moments where in the moment you're kind of catching, you're holding your breath a wee bit, but in the benefit of knowing the score and then watching the game afterwards, I didn't feel we were under any real danger of losing any points there. And from a positives perspective, 3 points, of course, 4 wins in a row. We remain 5 points behind that mob, just when they got a really big favour once again, which will shock you, for a disallowed goal for an OG that they lost against St Mirren. But we're still only the 5 points behind them, and we're only 9 points behind Hearts, with a game on hand over Hearts. And by the way, just for context, see at the beginning of the month, just 3 weeks ago, it was 14 points. You know, so we've clawed back 5 points and a game in hand as well at the same time. So good for the team for doing that. These are the positive signs that we want to be able to use as motivation factors for us as we move forward. And to be fair, it was a makeshift defence that did their best. We got some game time for Fernandez, and it was and by the way, I thought he played okay. I thought he played fairly well, you know, and he's a physical guy, doesn't mind getting physical as well, and of course getting the opening goal as well. You know, I mean, big tall guy, target the big tall guy, look what the big tall guy can do. Great goal, really good finish. And that was going to be the image of the thumbnail that goes on YouTube for the pod this week. I already set it up yesterday. I did a great job getting organised yesterday, but I have to maybe change it to Thelwell and Stewart now, just in the poignance of that moment for the club. For us, in terms of negatives, as I said, the goal that we lost was an old favourite, wasn't it? You know, and it just wasn't a great spectacle. And over the years that we've been doing this pod, this is number 254. Over the years, I don't think I've spent much time talking about Livingston games, home or away, in any competition whatsoever. They're very, very uninspiring. They're not very entertaining, quite stuffy. David Martindale does a great job, you know, managing with the resources that he has. But they're just very rarely good games. And even when we've won big in some of these games, afterwards I'm kind of like, I'm glad we don't have to play them again for another wee while. So I'll just kind of leave it at that. In terms of the stats, 73% possession, 4 shots on goal with 2 on target, versus 4 shots on goal and 2 on target. That's what the Rangers website said. Interesting that we, with all of that possession, that only materialised in 2 shots on target. And by the way, 2 goals. So, you know, that's 100% based on the shots that we actually got on target. So interesting times, but not a lot of chances created in the game. I think that's testimony to how you just kind of go meh after the game and move on from there. In terms of the referee watch, Ross Hardy, I don't know this guy at all. I actually had to look up his name to see who it was so that I could tell you. And I don't really recall him being overly annoyed by him or anything like that. You know, the VAR call I've already explained. So we'll take it, and he'll get the standard 7 out of 10. Didn't do anything wholly wrong or controversial for me. Our next games this week, Braga in the UEFA Europa League. I was trying to get quickly through the rest of the content there. The Europa League. Right here, Gary. And that's on Thursday with a 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time kickoff. That's 8 p.m. in the UK. We need a win. We just need a win. If we get a win there, it's not infeasible that we can still qualify. It's not. But we just need to do something in that competition. We haven't done anything yet. We have deserved the results we've got. I've already said that before on previous pods, and it's time that we maybe, there's a bit of enlightenment around the ground with Stewart and Thelwell gone, and maybe the successors will be in position by then. Maybe not. Who knows? We don't know. But hopefully that will lift the mood and give us an opportunity to be a wee bit more optimistic about that. We'll see how that goes. And then we're at home to Falkirk in the league on Sunday to wrap up November, and that's a 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Kick-off 2 p.m. in the UK. The message is just keep it going, Danny and team, and take the points that we should be absolutely taking, which is almost 100% of the points, and have the other teams think again and see how that's going to go. We've got 7 games in December, folks. 7 games. We've got 4 away at Dundee United, Killie, Ferencváros, probably butchering that name, and Hearts, and then we've got 3 at home. Hibs, Motherwell and St Mirren, and then it's the Old Firm game at the beginning of January. So the next 8 games are 5 away and 3 at home. And it's going to be the league table will absolutely look different by the end, of course, because by virtue of the fact that we played 8 games. But I think it's going to be testimony to see whether we're going to mount a challenge or we're just going to be hanging out where we hang out, which is kind of nowhere for right now. And what's that, 4th position still? Just behind Hibs, who we have a game on hand on over them as well. So big times coming up for the club, and it's going to be thick and fast, and we'll see what that looks like. In terms of shout-outs for this week, congratulations to Scotland on qualifying for the World Cup. I mentioned last week in the interview with Alan the podcast with Alan, that I'm a bandwagon jumper. I don't mind saying that. I transferred my timing of picking up my car to watch the game, and it was an exciting end to the game. Very, very Scotland-like, with some brilliant goals in there, some absolutely fantastic goals in there actually, and it was good to see. And it's just, the World Cup will be a better experience for that. I seen this clip on, was it YouTube or something like that, and there's this big, like a gorilla or orangutan or ape or something like that. I'm not exactly sure what it is, but it's all AI done. And the guy says, we're coming. Donald, where's your boozers? Which I thought was brilliant. And it's going to be great. And it's going to be material for us in terms of our planning, of course, for Nashville 2026. And with the World Cup draw taking place, what will that be, next week? The 5th of December, probably next Friday, I think it is, a week on Friday. And then we'll be able to then say, right, okay, this is actually what the game schedule looks like for the days that we are there. And then we can manage it around about that, if there is a Scotland game or not. We'll see what that looks like. On a bit of a personal front, I have a belated birthday wish to Edna Carey. Edna is my brother-in-law Andy's mum, and Andy and Debbie, the reason that it's a belated birthday wish is that I didn't want to spoil the surprise. Andy and Debbie went from Calgary last week to surprise Edna for her 75th birthday, and I saw the video of the actual surprise, and Edna is a very expressive woman, and not one of these stoic types that you're kind of trying to wonder whether she was actually surprised or whether she's happy or disappointed or sad. She absolutely wears her heart on her sleeve, and she was so excited. She ran the length of the pub in fright when the first reveal came in terms of them being there, and they had a great time. They had a birthday dinner with family and such the next day. So very, very happy birthday. I did Edna a birthday video just to wish her happy birthday and thank her for all of her support. Edna's been in my life for almost 40 years. Andy and I have been pals for that amount of time and been brother-in-laws for about 25, 26, 27 years, something like that now, coming up for 27 years, I believe. So Edna's part of the family, so it was great for them to be able to make that trip over and have that surprise for Edna. And just a shout out to a friend of NARSA, Callum Beattie, for his sold out show at the Hydro on Saturday night there. All things led to the Hydro there, and to sell out the Hydro, he put a post on Facebook on, maybe it was the day of or the Friday, something like that, saying 5 years ago I couldn't sell 30 tickets to a gig, and now I'm selling out the Hydro. And I believe he's doing Edinburgh Castle next year. And it's just testimony to obviously having skill and talent, and more so perseverance, continuing. It's actually inspiration for me in my own business. I've been doing mine for 2 years, and I have nowhere near reaped the benefits that I anticipated that I was going to reap in the first couple of years, to the point where there's a few people in my circle saying, or thinking, I know what you're thinking, what are you doing, man? Just get back to your day job and do what you were being compensated to do before. I don't know if I can do that, folks. I have talents and gifts and skills that I know can help people, and if I just bury myself in an organisation, I'm not going to create the impact that I want to create for other people. So bear that in mind if you're ever looking for a coach or a speaker or someone to come in and do some educational work with your organisation. And on the topic of European football for this week, Ellen Ellard, I mentioned her, the commentator who I've just I just kind of fell in love with in terms of her skills and abilities to be able to do some great work on comms for the European Games. She is on comms if you're in North America watching on DAZN or Paramount Plus for this week's game. And her and I had an interview on my business podcast. I think I actually might put this one out on the NARSA network as well, just so you can get a chance to listen to it. Maybe I'll see how that goes. But Ellen and I, the podcast is going out tomorrow. I publish my podcast on a Tuesday. And see, the key thing for me is in the background, we had a conversation and got to know each other a wee bit before we started recording. And then during the conversation, she reveals that she's been engaged with mentors, she's been engaged with coaches, she's been engaged with psychologists, all with an ability to get her better at her craft, to put in the hard yards behind it and really have that manifest in her life and her career to being the best version of what she can be. Then it all made sense. That's why there was an affinity there for me with her. And it was actually Ellen that told me today, big news on your side. When you wake up today, Gary, I checked my email as the first thing that I did when I went downstairs this morning, and my email was just open actually when I opened my computer, and I seen that she had emailed me back, and I was like, oh, and then I went to the Rangers website, and then I went to Sky Sports, and I was like, wow, okay, and then I opened my text messages, then I opened WhatsApp, and then seen it. So that pod is going out tomorrow, and we'll see what that looks like. Brian Campbell is back home right now. Him and Gaynor took the kids, Greg and Stella, to Lapland to see Santa last week, and I think that's a bit of an annual trip for the kids and such now, and it just looks absolutely incredible what they're doing, especially for them to go into the snow and see Santa and stuff like that. Just absolutely brilliant. But when he was on his trips, he sent me a clip from, I think it might have been Twitter, I'm not 100% sure, forgive me, or I should say X, and it was of a guy in a car just basically saying, listen, credit where it's due, kudos and thanks very much to Rangers for providing a ticket, and this fellow looks after, I believe it's kids with special needs or kids with behavioural issues or something like that. I can't remember exactly what his role was. And he said, one of the kids in my care right now is a big Rangers fan, and I wrote to Rangers to ask if there was any chance for a ticket for the Livingston game. And Rangers came back and said, thanks very much for all the work you're doing. Here's 8. So they got a chance to make it an event with other kids that are within their community and such, and the carers got an opportunity to go as well. And then at the end of the video, he reveals, by the way, I'm a Celtic fan, so I really don't want the result to go Rangers' way, but I just have to say kudos to Rangers. They were a joy to deal with. They were very, very kind and generous. They didn't have to do that, and they have made a number of fans very, very happy. So absolutely brilliant, Brian. Thank you for sharing that, and just great to see the stuff, that the fabric of the community that is being created, that has long been established with the club. And it's nice to see that stuff coming unprompted from people who, with the affinity he has for that mob at the East End, didn't have to say anything publicly about that. But he knows that there's something wider that Rangers are trying to do in terms of community liaison and support. And it was great. It's a very, very heartwarming video to see. And we also have another reminder, I should say, for Amanda and Jason Junior Ross, who are running the London Marathon in April. That's coming up quick here, in aid of the Royal British Legion. I'll, as always, leave the link there. Haven't heard how the Melbourne City Loyal Rangers Supporters Club event went on the weekend, and I'm not on social media that much, so I didn't get a chance to see any of that, but I hope to hear from them soon, and I'll maybe be able to share some of that. And I wasn't sure whether to put this in the communication section or the shout-out section, but the David Edgar, a very, very big friend and supporter of NARSA, is doing a show at Edmiston House alongside YouTube influencer CJ Novo, and the four lads had a dream newsletter fame, Stevie Clifford, and they're also going to be joined by Rangers legend Mark Haitley, and they're going to do that show, just basically a live show. If you've been to the conventions over the last few years, we do a live show on the Sunday where I have the opportunity to go up and sit down and chat with the guys and the legends who are there and such, and it's all just Rangers stuff, talking, getting some feedback, information, opinions and such, all about Rangers. And what I actually said to David this morning was that I'm going to do a plug for this. I think that would be a great show to do. It's on the 9th of January. And if you go to the Edmiston House website, you'll see that on the events upcoming, and I would absolutely encourage you to go. I would love to go to that event, just can't afford these trips these days. Back to my thing about the business I was talking about earlier, but certainly happy to plug it, and I'll do that every week between now and then. And what I'm going to do in December, folks, is I'm going to get David on. I'll maybe get David on next week, and then we'll get CJ on, and then we'll get Stephen on over the next wee while, just to talk to them. I don't really know Stevie or CJ that well, and it would be good to do a wee bit of sharing between our networks in terms of the work that we're doing together and such. So I'll try and make that happen over the next wee while. You'll get a different voice to hear, of course, as we record here, and have their opinions and wisdom on all things Rangers. So we'll line that up and give you a wee bit more entertainment as we go forward. Again, right, okay, for the next part, I wasn't 100% sure the best place to say this on this week's pod, and it is a personal family one for me for this week. And I was going to mention it in the beginning, but then of course we had that big news. I was going to mention it at the end, but I know a lot of people just tune out when I say that will do it for this week's, literally tune out when I say that will do it for this week, and they wouldn't get to hear it. And it's very, very important and very, very poignant. Last Tuesday morning, my time, I was actually teaching my class at the University of Calgary when the call came in. We were informed that my nephew, my godson, actually, in fact, Dylan McAnally, had taken his own life. And he was just 30 years old. And to say that we're shocked to the core and we're devastated as a family would be literally the understatement of the century, folks. And while we're collectively grieving right now, and we will do so in private, I did want to take this opportunity with and from the permission of my sister Margaret to talk about mental health and how serious it is. And despite the conversations being more normalised today, and in terms of the world than they ever have been, it's people are still not seeking support. They're still not able to know and understand that there are supports out there that everyone is dealing with a feature and form of mental health. And I honestly can't imagine. My heart literally breaks for him when I think about it. The pain and demons that one would have to suffer, that he had to suffer, and for how long, to then decide and determine that he only had one path left to take. And I'm not going to pretend that I understand it, folks. I'm really not. What I do know is that the conversation is normalised. Like I said, that supports are available, but maybe they're not reaching where they need to reach. And now is the time, more so than any other time in history, where we need to find a way for everyone, and in this particular case, especially for young men, to be aware of them and to ensure that they have absolutely no stigma, none whatsoever, attached to seeking external help. I'm from the west of Scotland. I know our culture is, I'll be fine. I just can't quite seem to find my joy these days, and such like that. And you're suffering in silence a lot of the times. And as I mentioned there earlier, I'm a coach. And what I do know is that everyone has something going on in their life that is affecting them, affecting their performance, affecting their joy, affecting their ability to do what they want to do, affecting, their overall life experience and such. And I truly admire and congratulate and thank every single one of my clients for being brave enough to seek the support of working with me. And folks, I'll be really honest, that's not a gimmick and that's not a platitude that I do to make them feel better about themselves. I genuinely mean it. And I think it's a very bold and brave step. So that then it almost creates a bit of distance though, because not everyone is engaging with a coach or a therapist or a psychologist or whatever type and style of support that you do need. So we need to, how do we stop it? How do we stop it being bold and brave and turn it into just a normal conversation? We're discussing work on our strengths and work on our struggles, and trying to get stronger is the same as talking about the football on the weekend, as talking about the latest episode of, Survivor, or the one with the rose and all that? I can't remember, or The Apprentice or whatever it is. We're looking at, and please let me know if you know of a way to be able to get that out there. I would be more than delighted to promote that on this podcast, and not just because of the tragic news for Dylan. It's something that I do care passionately about, and I'll help anyone at any point. And I think that's the challenge that we all have, and I hope in some way over time some good will come from this. My heart absolutely goes out to Dylan's two boys, and of course to my sister Margaret and her husband Dennis, and to Dylan's brother, my nephew Michael, on this tragic, terrible and awful loss. I did find out this morning that the funeral is going to be on the 10th of December, so I'll get a chance hopefully to tune into that. I'm assuming that they have that live streamed out there. And folks, I just want to finish off here by saying, if I can help you in any way whatsoever through any struggles that you're having, don't think they have to be monumental struggles. Don't think in any way, don't minimize your struggles, your challenges, your issues, and things that you maybe need a wee bit of help and support. If I can help you in any way, please reach out to me at rangersscc@hotmail.com. That's 2 S's and 2 C's. Or go to my website, go to garygillen.com, go to work with me or communication or something. There's a red button on the top right hand side. You can reach me through that, or email me at hello@garygillen.com. And I will absolutely get back to you, and I will give you the support that you need. And you don't have to do this alone, folks. And I'm so devastated that Dylan, thought he had to and didn't seek the support that would maybe have made this a different conversation today. Okay, absolutely no easy way to transition. I'm just going to get into the convention update and get back on the upbeat track here. It's 198 days, less than 200 days. 28 weeks until Nashville 2026. That's June the 11th to the 14th. It's World Cup opening weekend, and the hotel is out for booking. We're going to the Cambria Hotel in Midtown. There are 2 Cambria hotels in Nashville. Make sure you book the Midtown one. If you're phoning the hotel, then mention NARSA to get the preferred rate. If you have been paying attention to our socials, you will have a link to that. The link will be in the show notes from here until convention time. Space is limited. It's not a large hotel. It's a boutique hotel. I think there's something like 139 rooms in the place. We've booked 50 guest rooms, that is, for the time being, to see how busy or popular it's going to be, and then we'll take it from there. If we sell out of them quickly, we'll try and access more. If we don't, then we'll start to panic and get squeaky bum between now and convention time, like we had for Kissimmee. Please don't let it get to that. Nashville is going to be a very, very fun town. Really, really looking at that. So now we've turned our attentions to the itinerary, and we had a conversation with the NARSA exec last week on what the itinerary could look like to make Destination NARSA 2026, commensurate with our traditions, commensurate with our popular themes, but also to make it a wee bit different. And that's what we promised to do. That's what the outputs of the survey suggested that people would like to happen. So that's what we're going to do. And we're hopefully going to do a good job of that. We're going to do a great job of that. And hopefully it lands the way that we anticipate it's going to land. In terms of other NARSA business, we did have a NARSA executive meeting last, what day was that? Tuesday or Wednesday? I can't remember the day now. And I think it was Tuesday. And we're going to be doing ongoing cleaning up of the website, and particularly paying attention to clubs that are no longer part of the NARSA family, who have decided to leave us, and clubs who are not taking RTV through the official RTV channels. That you'll see a designation essentially below each club that says something about RTV. If you see that banner below each club, they are subscribed to RTV. If you visit that club while on holiday or traveling for work or whatever that looks like, you'll know that you're watching an official feed that's being officially paid for. If you visit another club who has not subscribed to RTV, your guess is as good as mine as to where they're getting the feed from. We will continue with the convention planning. There's going to be some discussions with the ticket office as well about the formal clubs that we have in the fold, and the clubs who are no longer with us, to make sure that they're not giving tickets to people that are no longer part of the NARSA family. They can certainly sell tickets to whomever they want, of course, but not under the NARSA umbrella. One of the benefits of being a NARSA club and an NARSA member for a bona fide NARSA club is that we can access tickets for most games for you as we are moving forward together. And we had a very productive marketing and sponsorship discussion this morning, myself, Alan McWatt and Stephen, and we had Stephen Johnson, that is, and we had an opportunity for me to share a bunch of files that I've kept over the years since we started the marketing and sponsorship director role. And I'm delighted to see that Stephen has real gusto to do this. He's already made some real inroads with some key players who might be able to give us an opportunity for some marketing, for some sponsorship dollars to come in to help us create a better experience for you, to create a better experience for our convention or our experienced guests when they come over to celebrate with us on an annual basis. It gives us an opportunity to give back to our community, which is, of course, our NARSA membership, and see where we want to go from there. So, I mean, I'm going to open this up again. I've talked about this many, many times, that if you're looking to sponsor this podcast, if you want me to start this podcast each week saying, hello and welcome to the NARSA Weekly Update, brought to you by our partners at, and then the name of your company and what you do and why you do it and why it's important, I am more than happy to do that. If you want to sponsor just a segment of the podcast, whether it be the intro, whether it be the game segment, whether it be the convention planning, whatever that looks like, we're open to a conversation. And folks, we're just getting started here. So you could be the gallant pioneers of NARSA 2.0 in terms of where we want to take this business going forward, and the opportunity for us to generate more revenue, to be able to pay it back to the Rangers community at large and not just NARSA, including benevolence donations and such. I would love to have that conversation with you. Stephen would love to have that conversation with you even more. And we can co-create this together. We have some packages that are available. We can do anything bespoke for you or ad hoc for you that you would like. So please don't hesitate to get in touch. No donation or sponsorship is too small and none is too large. I'll stop the sales pitch for there. On the communication section, cards on the table with all the hilarity this morning. I didn't look to see if there was a Gers guide. I would be kind of surprised if there is, but we're kind of up and down with the Gers guide. So what you'll have today is you'll have a Rangers women's team review. I would imagine there might be something to do with the game on the weekend. Tomorrow there'll be a loan review. Wednesday there's probably going to be the press conference for the game against Braga on Thursday. Thursday will be the game itself. Friday probably will be the presser for the Falkirk game. Nothing much will happen on Saturday, and then on Sunday we will have I don't actually think the Rangers women team are playing this week, so on Sunday we'll have the Rangers get the men's team only, and it's a 2 p.m. kickoff. Remember, it's an hour earlier. It's not the standard 3 p.m. kickoff time. So there's the gas guide. That's kind of probably what will happen. Further communications. Did you get a chance to check out the interview that I did with Stevie Jukes last week? We published that on, what was that now, Thursday? I believe we published that and got really good feedback on that from a lot of people who don't typically provide feedback on anything that I do, actually. But the folks enjoyed it. Stevie's a great guest. Stevie's a great guy. And the work they're doing on the Happy Place workshop is absolutely incredible. And to do what they've done in just a few short years in honour and memory of their dad, Bertie, is absolutely brilliant. If you haven't had a chance to check it out, please do on any of your regular podcast platforms or our YouTube channel. And if you go to YouTube, you'll see that it's actually the video. It's me and him doing it on video too. So you get a chance to see that. You can see that on my own network, Gary Gillen Coaching, on YouTube as well. The women's team beat Motherwell 3-0, and they are now up to third, with them now being 1 win away from second, but still 7 points behind Glasgow City. And that's actually not a bad news story, because Glasgow City drew on the weekend there. So the league table is looking a wee bit less bleak than it was over the last wee while after the kind of the nightmare run that they had for a wee while. Better position than last week. You can only beat who is in front of you. Hopefully they continue to pick up points and give themselves an opportunity to make a bit of a splash in that league as well. So yeah, a wee bit more upbeat, I should say, for both the men's and the women's team over this last wee while. So let's keep that up, folks, and give us something to actually cheer about. Please, please, please do like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you haven't already, please do subscribe to our podcast platform, whatever podcast platform that you use, and if you can, leave us a review, leave us a starring or a rating review, and then if you have the facility or ability to be able to do that, leave us some comments as well. If there's anything you'd like to see done differently, done better, added back in, taken away, whatever it is, I'm more than happy to consider whatever it is you would like to suggest. And we will be getting the guests on, as I mentioned there earlier, over the next wee while. And we do have a bit of a queue, because I do want to get Si Leslie on from Rangers TV, not Rangers TV, I can't remember the exact name of his platform. Forgive me, Si, for that. And we have a singer looking to come on. We'll be announcing guests for Destination NARSA 2026. In the next wee while, we'll get them on as well. So there's going to be a lot of variety coming your way over the next wee while. So please do subscribe. It really helps us out with our marketing and sponsorship conversations that we're having. Quick reminder again on the Era's Captain's Night, an evening with Barry Ferguson and special guest. That's going to be on the 19th of December. What's that? 3 weeks away, roughly. And it's £40 per ticket there. Okay, a mammoth episode today with a whole bunch of different types of style of content coming your way, both professional and personal. I hope you've enjoyed it. Please do share it with someone that you think might enjoy it, especially on the mental health stuff, folks. Please do share it, just if nothing for nothing else. On that part, it's very, very important we reach as many people as we possibly can. That offer stands in perpetuity. If you think I can ever help you, it would be 100% confidential between you and me, and I will endeavour to get you the help that you need, folks. I am very good at my coaching craft, and I can help you out in that respect, and I can also help you out with therapeutic referrals and whatnot as well. So please don't ever hesitate to get in touch. And if that's not incentive to share it with someone else, then I don't know what is. And thank you, as always, for indulging me, for spending the time with me this week. Happy Thanksgiving to our Bears and Bearettes down in the United States this coming Thursday, and hopefully you have a very wonderful Thanksgiving present with our first points in the Europa League. It's another busy week based on where we're at as a football club, and it's another busy week that's really going to be the start of a very, very busy period for us in terms of the games. So we need to get the head down. We need to figure out a way to win each and every one of these games and see where it takes us. For this week, 2 wins, please, Rangers. That would be absolutely wonderful. Until next week, my friends, take care. All the very, very best to each and every one of you. I love all of you. Thank you so much for tuning in. Follow.